Yeah, we are.
So good.
We're at Casa de Mama and Papa LakeForkGuy now.
Yeah, LFD's crib here. It's where I grew up.
It is, man. Well, welcome everybody back to the podcast. We have been super freaking busy the last couple months.
I think that's everybody's excuse when they have a hiatus, but we actually have been very busy. And for all the video watchers out there that are watching this after this has already been posted at the Hook and Arrow podcast, welcome to this posting. This is posting during my surgery while I'm down. So hello. This is our first one we're posting online. So welcome to it.
Yeah, so this is actually the first podcast that we have done since your diagnosis. I think I did one podcast.
Have we even talked about it on this podcast?
No, we haven't. Not on the podcast.
Well, my gosh. Here we go. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah,
let's start with
that one.
Me and JT really haven't talked a whole lot. We kind of just decided we were going to turn on the mics and roll and really not have a game plan. I feel like it flows better that way.
It does.
It's just normal conversation. And also just being in person here feels 300 times better than speaking to you over the internet.
Yeah.
I think that always is a better conversation, but I'm digressing. So everyone on this channel here, if you're watching, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor about a month and a half ago, I believe it was. I've kind of lost track of time a little bit 'cause so much stuff's happened. And my brain tumor's name's Willis, by the way.
You get diagnosed with a brain tumor, and then you go into probably the busiest month of your entire life. It's kind of wild.
Mm-hmm. I kind of just decided, I was like, well, if this is how life's going to be, I'm just going to go for life, you know? You never know what's going to happen to you, how many years you have. So I'm like, I'm just going to live it up, man, which is good for content-wise, you know, podcasting as well. We've got plenty of stories. We both do.
Lots of stories.
But surgery's set for now when you're watching, if you're a video viewer. But if you're a podcast listener, we got November 2nd. This is the surgery date. Got a brain tumor behind my left eye, just under the base of the brain. It's benign as far as the doctors know. So
that's a good thing.
That is a very good thing. But when they showed it to me at first on the big screen in the doctor's office, I was like, how am I even walking around with this thing in my brain? It's freaking huge.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, one good thing about when your surgery is, you know, hopefully your doctor practiced on some pumpkins at Halloween.
It is. That is so similar. It's literally like a pumpkin carving. What do you call that? When you
jack-o'-lantern?
Yeah, when you decap a pumpkin. It's called a craniotomy.
A craniotomy. So they're just going to take a little bit of your skull out.
Yeah, as little as possible. Yeah. They go in there with some sort of laser measuring tool, and they're like, okay, this thing is this wide, and I think it's 3 centimeters at its widest. So I don't know, it'd be about like that. But they cut that hole. They pluck it out of there, I guess would be the simplest of terms, and then they close the hole back up, and hopefully I'm still functioning properly.
Well, we were talking before the podcast, like it's crazy to me. They can just, you know, pop your piece of skull back in and it just grows back together.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Well, the human body is amazing, first of all. But what the doctors can do now is pretty outstanding. So I'm not too worried about it, and I'm keeping myself super busy so I don't have time to really dwell on it. So that's been a really good thing. You've
got you an Asian doctor. It's always a good thing.
Absolutely. If I went in there and it was like, you know, a white guy or something, I'd be worried.
Yeah, you don't want Bubba.
No, I don't want Bubba operating on me. Like, give me Dr. Dong, and that's literally his name. Dr. Dong Kim. You can look him up. He's one of the best brain surgeons in the world, and he fits the profile, man.
Yeah.
So I talked to him. He's a super smart guy, and I'm not gonna say he was really cocky, but he was pretty confident. He's like, "We got you, man. I do this all the time." I think he does 200 surgeries a year on this kind of deal. So
that's crazy.
And I was doing some research. There's like 50,000 brain tumors diagnosed a year, I think worldwide, and then like 27,000 of those are like the ones I have. They're called meningiomas, and so there's cases like this all the time. So he's got plenty of business.
Yeah. Well, we're just happy that it's benign as far as everyone knows.
Yeah.
Could
have been worse.
I think you'll be down for a couple of weeks and then you'll be back at it.
As soon as I can put a rod and reel in my hand, or I've got a bow sitting here in front of me that you've helped me tune. Just do something like that where I can get out in the yard and do something outdoorsy. I'm gonna be doing it.
Yeah,
for sure. So
you'll be laid up here eating Mama Rackley's cooking for about a month.
Yeah, don't feel too bad for me. I'm gonna have a pretty good situation there for about a month.
Between Stephanie and your mom, just like waiting on you hand and foot, you're just gonna want to stay laid up.
It's gonna be awesome. Look at these decorations we have around here. Look at the fall decor. My mom's on top of it.
Yeah,
she's on her cooking game hard. Stephanie is. It's like they compete in this household too. They get after it. It's like who can cook the best meal. So I benefit from that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Well, why don't we now that we covered the old brain tumor?
Yeah, that's out of the way.
Yeah, why don't we talk about your first trip you did last month?
Okay.
Which was your fishing trip down to Mexico, and just how did that come about, and tell everybody what it was.
So I got asked to go fish in this international fishing tournament, and a lot of the stuff that I've been doing over the past month is stuff that's been planned way out ahead of my diagnosis. I just said, I'm just going to go do it. So the Mexico thing was an international bass fishing tournament between Italy, Spain, Mexico, and the United States. So you had those four countries, and this was put together. Chuy Morales he's a pretty well. I mean, he's like the KVD of Mexico. I would say everybody knows who he is, and he helped put this together. Hosted it on Sugar Lake down in Mexico, which is not too far away from the Mexican border, really. It's like probably 45 minutes across the border. And the tournament was set as a 3-day tournament, point system, which I'd never done a point system tournament before. Most of the tournaments we fish are by the pound. And with a point system, it makes it like golf. So the highest weight that you have is the lowest score. So if you're fishing as a team, like multiple teams, they just combine those to get a low score. So that was really interesting to fish in that format. But Sugar Lake, I was expecting like this big lake full of trees, and all we'd be doing was like flipping big jigs or something like that, worms, into the big cover and just take the biggest rods I could take. It actually turned out to be like a lot of rocks, like deep offshore rock fishing. So that kind of caught me off guard. But it was small, so you could break it down really quick and figure out what was going on, and we had 1 day to practice, and showing up there, I really figured out a lot. I had so much other stuff going on, I didn't have time to like really research the lake or research the format or anything. I just had some friends at Favorite Fishing that were like, "Hey, your country needs you. Get down here." I was like, "All right." So when I got there on practice day, that's when I really discovered a lot about the lake and the tournament format and everything. And then it was eight boats per country. So 16 team members per country. And man, it was just my first fish I caught was 7 pounds.
Nice.
I was like, whoa, we're not in Texas anymore. Even though Texas has big bass, it was like, man, this is what we're dealing with. Monsters. I was thinking we were going to catch like 40-pound sacks.
Well, I've heard quite a bit about Sugar Lake over the last few years. It seems like there's a lot of guides going down and guiding Sugar Lake instead of El Salto nowadays. I don't know what the reason for that is, or maybe it's just some of the people that I'm friends with. I just know that some of the Lake Fork guides that I'm either friends with on social media or follow or something, I've seen that they do like week or 2 week trips down to Sugar Lake and have people meet them down there.
Yeah, they definitely do that. And Sugar is like a pretty easy destination to go if you're from the States and just want to take your boat and then go down there. It's pretty easy. I mean, all you got to do is just go through, the border, not border patrol, but
customs.
Yeah, whatever. But they check your boat pretty thoroughly. We had like a dude that met us there that was from the lodge, and Mexico is different. It's everything's kind of up for negotiation.
Oh,
in Mexico,
100%.
it seems a little shifty. So as soon as we got there, I figured out, these border agents, they don't speak any English at all, and they're asking for the titles for the motor and the boat. So that was definitely different. And then they were checking the compartments and stuff, but they couldn't speak English in it. I know very little Spanish, so it made it kind of difficult. But 2-hour process getting through the border, finally got to the lodge, and then it was all gravy. We did hit a little weird roadblock situation where there was these guys that had like tar. Did I already tell you the story about the tar?
I think you did. They were filling potholes or something.
Yeah, they had these like literally sticks that they just took off trees, like mesquite trees, and they had like a towel wrapped on the end of them, and they had these like buckets, and they were just dipping the stick with the towel thing on the end, like a big Q-tip, in the bucket of tar, and they were kind of just like drizzling it on the road and wiping it into these like pothole areas because the road was just, it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And they had these like makeshift orange shirts on and or vests, and we're all driving in a row, like 8 boats together, and we get to this little roadblock situation, and I'm thinking, seems a little weird. I mean, we just drove like 30 minutes in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around anymore. What could be happening here? I don't know. And then there's this pickup truck with like a roll bar on the back, and this guy is standing there with a machine gun, and then I see like all these other guys standing full black, like SWAT gear with masks over their face, with MP4s and M16s, and I put my camera down. I was like, I don't know if I should be filming this. I wanted to, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know who these guys are. You don't know who's playing for the other team in that situation.
Yeah, you don't know. They might want 8 new bass boats, and they have the guns.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking, but it wasn't that. I mean, we waved, we went through, and once we got to the lodge and everything, it was all safe. But those tactical teams came through multiple times a day. They just come through and check the place out. I guess because they are kind of concerned, and that's a big moneymaker down there, for them. So they want to make sure it's still up and trucking. And the tournament actually turned out to be like a bigger deal than I thought. The mayor of the town came. A bunch of officials came, and it was a big deal. A lot of the stuff they were saying I didn't understand. But
so what was? I know you said it's a point format and it's something different that you'd never done before. What was like The timing of it, was that similar to our tournaments here? Daylight or before daylight to 2 or 3, or
no,
was it?
Not really. It was kind of just like, the lodge was sponsored by Tecate Light. That's the first thing you have to understand.
So there was some beer drinking going on in this tournament.
That's the first thing you have to understand is Tecate Light. I'm not sure they even had water there. It was just all Tecate Light. And so they would just bring these things around, toss them around. Like I have no idea how many Tecate Lights I had, but I think the entire lodge was pretty full of Tecate Light by the time the morning of the tournament came. And it was kind of just whenever you get to the boat ramp, this is when you go, which was kind of surprising. It was also a kind of a debacle getting the boats and trucks out in order. Like if your neighbor was parked next to you, you may not be able to get out because the parking, it was kind of like up on a cliff, and it's just not like here. It's kind of makeshift, everything is. So parking was a little hairy. So if you couldn't get out, you obviously couldn't get to the boat ramp, which was on a dirt road 2 miles down. And then the boat ramp was at full potholes. And if you didn't have 4-wheel drive, you weren't launching your boat. That's how. So
we have a bunch of anglers drunk on Tecate Light.
Well,
having to get boats backed out of parking spots on the edge of a cliff, and then down a 2-mile road to the ramp. That sounds like a good old time in Mexico to me.
Yeah, you hear those Toby Keith songs about Mexico. It wasn't quite that, but it was good times at the lodge. Toby Keith's picture is up at Sugar Lodge. He has partied down there. It kind of made me think about his songs, like if he'd been there and written any songs while he was down at Sugar Lake Lodge.
Yeah, what's his one song? What happens down in Mexico stays in Mexico.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of senoritas rolling around there, but definitely a lot of Tecate Light, a lot of saw centipedes, like nasty looking centipedes, a lot of lizards and stuff. Trying to think the little nuances to really give that visual presentation. The water, it was just warm, like your shower water. It was just like a lukewarm deal. It didn't have hot or cold. And I didn't drink the water.
Yeah, I wouldn't have drank the water.
I didn't. I drank 100% coffee, Tecate Light, and I think I might have had a couple of bottled waters while I was there.
So what was the lake water? What was the color of it?
It was super chalky.
Yeah.
And if you ever take your boat down there, make sure you rinse it off every time you get out of the water, because it will just it'll actually like eat away at the coating on your boat, your gel coat. It's I guess basic, maybe it's really basic, but you get a hard water line. It's like a chalk look. Your motor's all nasty, and it's got that caliche road all around it too. So as soon as you pull your boat out of the water, going down the caliche road, you're just, it looks like a clay pot when you get it back to the boat or the hotel. So
yeah, well, we got your rods and stuff here. I think you've got some of the stuff that y'all are fishing down there.
Yeah, let me tell you about the fishing, because that was the best part, man. It was a good time. It was good camaraderie with all the other countrymen, I guess we could call it. There was some LFG, worldwide LFG viewers there. That was kind of cool.
Nice.
Worldwide fishing freaks. And, the fishing was really good. Me and my partner, we had 26 pounds the first day, I believe. And we embarrassingly had 14 pounds the next day. I think it was like 6 kilos is what it was. And then we had about 16 the next day. But that was enough with the rest of our team to put us up at number 1 overall by 40 pounds.
By 40 pounds?
Yeah, we crushed
it.
I was feeling bad after the second day. I was like, dang. And because of the point system, that didn't help me and my partner at all, because the first day we did good, and that weight didn't carry over because it starts over the next day because of the points. So, but we ended up crushing it, and everybody was super nice. Like I said, it was just a lot of camaraderie, and we ended up fishing a lot of jigs. That was one of the main things. A Texas rig Cinco. They eat that thing like a freaking candy corn. And then a big crankbait. That's what ended up being like the best thing. You know, I'll break one of these bad boys out for video viewers.
Yeah, this is what's cool about actually being in person and sitting here videoing, is we can like bust out props and stuff.
Yeah, this is actually the box I took, and I had it full. I had this actually rigged up for Mexico and Amazon, but it had to be chartreuse in some area. Like, the more chartreuse, the better, was really the key, because the water was just kind of that chalky color. But, man, I'm not a big crankbait guy. I'm really not. But that was what caught a lot of the big bass that week. The biggest bass I caught on the crankbait was 3 pounds. And I don't know. I just couldn't get a big bite on it.
So for the listeners, the first bait he pulled out here is a Bomber fat-free shad, and it is in a chartreuse black back color. Yeah.
Brand wasn't huge. I mean, Strike King, you could throw a 5XD or 6XD. Norman DD22 worked well, something like that. All those, it didn't really matter. As long as it was touching the bottom, grinding rock, that was the key. That's the biggest takeaway from Mexico down there. You had to find baseball, or I'll say softball size to melon size chunk rock. And whether it was in like 6 foot of water or 30 feet of water, they were going to be on it.
And so y'all were just fishing, humps and road beds and
points,
tank dams, points.
There wasn't really like, the senderos were kind of shallow, but it would just be like the natural rock that was in the lake.
I got you.
And like I said, it didn't really matter the depth, and we got hung up so much. I mean, but when you got in that stuff, you were around the fish, and it was a timing deal. You had to be there at the right time to get them to feed. But other than that, dude, it was just it was good times for 3 days. Super hot, sweltering heat down there in Mexico. And one other interesting fact, the dam was actually built by Hitler's engineers.
What?
Yeah. Fun fact. Fun fact of the day. It was an interesting looking dam. Someone told me that, and I looked it up. It turned out that's appeared to be the case. I guess he was planning some Mexican moves. Didn't work out totally, but.
Huh. So I wonder if that was like pre-war or post-war that they snagged up his engineers to build it.
I think it was pre.
Yeah.
I think it was pre. I'm not sure. I mean, he had big plans, but
Oh, he definitely had big plans.
It didn't work out. So his dam remains though on Sugar Lake, and it holds big bass. So.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. And you came back and you were on the road again fast.
I actually crossed over the border for no more than 6 or 7 hours, and then I was on another plane going to South America, which will be a whole nother podcast. But
yeah, I think we're going to hold off on the South America talk. But while you were down at Sugar Lake in Mexico, I was actually in Colorado.
Yeah, because you sent me a pic. You've done this to me twice now, because we're both just running around. You sent me a pic of your animal on the ground. I was like, what? I don't even remember him telling me he was going on this hunt. So that's how we've been for the last month. But we haven't really talked about this one at all.
No, I don't, because you went straight down to South America.
Yeah.
And so I haven't gotten to tell this story.
And you were on to another adventure.
So end of August, I went up to the Pueblo area of Colorado, right there close to your boy Outlaw.
Pueblo's close to, that's the name of the...
Pueblo is the name of the town
that
I was at. I think it's about an hour from from where your boy Outlaw lives up there.
Okay. So is that a heavy duty Native American type deal? It sounds like it. I'm trying to get a visual here.
I don't know. I don't think there's as many Native Americans there as in like New Mexico, but
Pueblo sounds like
Pueblo definitely
mud huts.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't that. Pueblo is actually a pretty good sized city. Definitely like bigger than Weatherford, or
pretty good size.
Yeah, I mean it was a good sized city, but my buddy Brett, who I've known for years from shooting tournament archery, he grew up there, and one of his best friends from grade school has a 5,000 acre ranch up there. And they don't really sell hunts on it per se, but if Brett finds somebody who wants to come hunt, he'll kind of make a deal. Just you pay a trespass fee and you can hunt antelope. And so the area we were hunting was an over-the-counter archery tag, and I paid $1,000 trespass fee for up to a week of hunting on this guy's property. And my buddy Brett was already up there. He went and set blinds up for us on all the water holes that the better water holes on the property. And my cousin Michael actually decided to head up there with me.
Did you already say what this hunt was about?
I think I said antelope.
Okay.
Yeah,
what did you call
pronghorn antelope.
What did you call them today at the bow shop?
A speed goat.
A speed goat.
Yeah, speed
goat. I
goat.
thought that was better. I think that's great.
Yeah,
hunting speed goats.
Yeah, so my cousin Michael decided that he was going to go with me, and our original plan was to leave like at 7 o'clock on a Thursday at night, drive all night, get there like just in time to start hunting the next morning, and hunt Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then until noon Monday. And that was our plan. And then I randomly just happened to get on Southwest website, and a round trip flight from Love Field to Denver was like 10,000 miles, which is like pretty much equals $100.
Isn't that like one of the cheapest flights in the country?
It has to be because it was
I went
super
up to Denver
cheap
last year, and I think it was like $85
yeah.
to go to Denver from Dallas.
It was super cheap, and so I talked to my cousin. And I was like, "Hey, instead of us killing ourselves driving all night up here, I said let's just fly into Denver. We'll get there about 10 p.m. and then we'll have a 2-hour drive instead of a 10-hour drive."
Beautiful, yeah.
And so we flew into Denver. I think we got there at 10 or 10:30 p.m. We drove down into Pueblo, and we ended up just staying at La Quinta Inn there in town. And we met Brett the following morning, and we started hunting. And it had been super dry. I was expecting the antelope to just be coming to the water holes like crazy. And the first day, I had a couple of does come in, a couple of babies, a couple of does, and I had one buck come in, pretty decent little buck. I mean, definitely a shooter for me. I had him come in, and he pushed those does off and didn't drink, and so I didn't get a shot. There was actually one other guy hunting with us named Jim, and he was an older guy in his 60s, maybe his 70s. Super, super nice guy. And we all went to dinner every night in town, just went and had dinner, and then went back to the hotels and got up the next morning, did it again. And I mean, when you're hunting these pronghorn at a water hole, you are sitting from sun up to sundown and never getting out of the blind.
Why? I mean, like with whitetail, you kind of have a read on when they might come. I mean, is it as hard as you want to do it, or is that just they could just come by at any time and you have to be ready?
You just don't know when they're going to drink for the day.
You hear that?
I did hear that.
Dude, that's a huge frog.
That is a big frog.
I'm kind of liking this podcast. I love it because we got crickets in the background. There's some sort of big tree frog out here. We might have owls. This is fitting right along with your story. Did you have frogs there?
Dude, So crazy story.
In Colorado.
You would actually like this, being a wildlife fisheries major. Dude, the pond that I was sitting at had millions and millions of tadpoles.
In Colorado?
Yes, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. They would come to the surface, and it would be like waves on the surface of this pond because there were so many tadpoles. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
What?
Dude, it was wild. I didn't know what it was at first. In fact, I text messaged Brett. I'm sitting here watching all this crap on the pond, and I'm thinking, what the heck is that? And so I message him, and he tells me it's tadpoles. And so I get my binoculars, and I'm starting to look and just see if I can see. And sure enough, it was just thousands and thousands of tadpoles.
They look like raindrops or something?
Yeah.
That was hitting the water?
They just were. It was crazy. It was so wild. I'd never seen anything like it before.
How big were they, do you think?
They were pretty good size. I mean, they were an inch long. They were getting close to being frogs.
I just wonder if they were bullfrogs or what species.
I have no idea, but
That's
it was
weird.
crazy, man. I actually think I took some video of it, but you couldn't really tell what they were from the video. You could just see all the commotion on the top of the water.
Huh. When I think Colorado, I'm not thinking frogs.
Yeah, well, and we were hunting down the lower elevations.
Okay.
It was the prairies.
Okay.
It's where the antelope live. We weren't in the mountains. A lot of wide open stuff, just some rolling hills.
Huh.
Nothing too crazy. But yeah, to answer your question, that you just don't know when they're going to drink, and so to have your best chance of killing one, pretty much got to be there the entire day. And it was brutal. If you've never sat in a stand for 13, 14 hours, it was upper 80s. It's 86 to 89 degrees.
Pretty hot when you're sitting in a box.
Oh, very hot. I took a Yeti hopper and just filled it with ice and Gatorade and water and
just
snacks.
Sweated your butt off.
Yeah, I should have took y'all's Mexico, the way y'all handled Mexico, and took beer, but I didn't. I never drink when I hunt because I've always tried to actually kill something. But
yeah, that might not work out.
Yeah, although I can say I've been pretty drunk and shot a couple of pigs before.
Well,
that was at night.
That's
at camp.
Yeah, that's fully doable.
Yeah, but so we sat there all day. The second day, about 11 in the morning, I had that same buck come in, and I'm not ashamed to admit this. I got buck fever. Dude, I was shaking.
Mr. John Thomas.
I have killed some cool stuff in my day.
Dude, yes.
And
giant antler stuff.
I killed a moose up in British Columbia and got 0 buck fever. I've killed a kudu in South Africa and got 0 buck fever. This antelope had me shaking like a dog trying to shit a peach seed. I was just, dude. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the fact that he came in so fast and surprised me. He also came to the side of my blind that I didn't have a window open. And so it may have kind of been that I was a little bit anxious trying to get the blind open to get a shot at him.
He caught you off guard.
He caught me off guard completely. Because I hadn't seen anything yet that morning. And
I think that's part of it. It's if you're seeing a lot of activity out there to keep you engaged, it's not as bad. But when it's been all day and, if you're out on the lake and it's your one bite that you got, or if you're standing around waiting for something to come out and it's all day, it's you have all that time built up. I think, it's one shot, Eminem. This is your chance.
Well, and also, I'll be honest, I have struggled shooting this year really bad. I started off shooting really good, the tournaments that I was shooting, and I just started struggling. And it's completely mental. I just got target panic really bad. That's why I haven't been uploading anything to my YouTube channel, is because I was shooting really good. I was uploading some videos, but I've been shooting so bad.
You can't do that. You got to take the good and the bad. Look at what I shot like today, JT. What do you call that? If you have target panic, what is mine called?
Well, yours is called not shooting a bow in 10 years.
Target retardation. I don't know. I've got serious problems, but I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
You're really good at shooting, and
I just have struggled, and I've been shooting bad enough that I didn't feel like people should listen to me about shooting as bad as I was struggling. And so that's kind of why.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's kind of why I stopped uploading the videos. And so the week antelope hunting really tested my patience. So this buck comes in, and he, after I finally get the window open on the blind to my left where he comes in, it's the only spot on the whole water hole that I didn't have a window ready to shoot. And it's because where all the tracks were and the way it looked like all the antelope were coming in, it didn't look like they were using that spot. And so I got the window open. I ranged him at 46 yards.
Pretty good poke.
But before I could draw my bow back, he started walking off into my left. And so I didn't re-range him, and I had thought that he had walked more away from me than he had. And I think in reality he had actually walked either perfectly parallel with me or maybe even a tad bit closer. So he was 45, 46 yards, and I put my 50 right where I wanted to hit him. And between being 4 yards off at that far of a distance and him dropping a little bit, I shot just over his back. And dude, after
you missed an animal.
I did. I missed him. I straight up missed him. And after struggling shooting the way I have for this year, like it crushed me. Like it just, dude.
I can see that. You were in a slump, and then when it came, you missed, and then that's got to be devastating to your confidence.
Yeah, it crushed me. I was so pissed. Add that to the fact that we weren't seeing a ton of antelope to begin with. It was rough. And so, stuck it out, stayed in the blind. Didn't see anything else that day. I may have had another little group of does come in or something, but it just, they just weren't hitting water. And so I was thinking, well, I just blew my one chance. But
which happens on hunts.
Oh, it happens for sure. But so that night here, we'll get into a funny story now.
Good.
So that night, let's give a little background on myself.
I need a little funny in this Colorado trip.
Yeah, let's give a little background on myself. I just turned 32 years old. I have never seen marijuana.
Welcome. I think we might have similar experiences.
Yeah. So there was a marijuana shop right by my hotel. And
what was it called?
Dude, it was called Strawberry Fields.
Okay.
Yeah, Strawberry Fields. So if you're in Pueblo, Colorado, hit up Strawberry Fields for all your marijuana
Wow,
needs.
did they give you a good hookup? I mean, did you have a good experience in there? Like, what happened?
Dude, so we stop and go in there.
You did not vlog this?
No, I didn't.
This would be
I should
the
have
best
vlogged it.
Ever.
It's the weirdest thing, man. You go in one of these pot shops, and it's literally like the nicest CVS pharmacy type weird hippie atmosphere.
Like shady, like a Spencer's.
Not shady at all.
Weird lava lamps, nothing like that.
Well, they had like a disco ball, but like super clean, just like super modern.
Huh.
But I still felt like I was doing something so wrong by going in there. And
what did it smell like?
Dude, it didn't really smell. I don't think you're allowed to smoke in there.
Okay.
But man, they had everything. They had edibles. They had pre-rolled joints. They had pot plants actually, where
Like
you could buy your own plant to grow.
Wow.
dude, they had it all, and they had this big board up top that told you everything they had, like all the different strains, and
it's that
the
complicated.
The sativas and the indicas and whatever else.
It's like similar to coffee then.
It's like a coffee shop, a real fancy coffee shop.
Coffee shop, because it sounds like there's different strains, which would be your different, grades of beans and things like that.
That's exactly what it is.
You can choose to have it in like an espresso form, or you can get it in a latte or something like that. So
yeah, and I mean, they have these. It's almost like a barista too.
They have a person that
they have a person that helps you.
Help you the process.
Yeah, it's really weird because the federal government still doesn't recognize it, so it's like all cash transactions.
What?
Yeah, it's still pot is still federally illegal.
Right, but when you go in there, is there like a sign that says no credit card, no cash only?
It's cash only. They have an ATM
How does that
in there.
work out with the state getting the taxes?
I have no idea.
Well, Colorado might be getting a little shafted there.
Yeah, but I think they're selling enough of it that the state's plenty happy.
I guess.
But yeah, so we went in there and I bought a little thing of pot gummies, just because I figured hell is legal.
Well, what kind of gummies? I mean, were they standard square chews?
Yeah,
or
they were just
like
square chew
bear?
gummies. I was thinking I could just go in there and buy one gummy. They sold me a bottle of 10 of them because that's the only way you could buy them.
A bottle, so it wasn't like a gum, like a package of gum.
No, it was like a bottle, just like a pill, or it was like a vitamin bottle, like a fatter pill bottle.
All right.
And they had your gummies in there. I think they were like 10 milligrams each or something. I don't even know what that means. They just told me if I was going to eat 2 of them.
So they gave you instructions.
Yeah, gave me instructions.
You said, I'm just a dude from a small town in Texas, and I'm looking to try some gummies.
Yeah, I was like, well, hell, it's legal. I might as well try it because I have nothing against it. I mean, I think it's probably better than alcohol, if we're going to be completely honest. Like, I mean, I've never really heard of too many people just getting high and, killing people in their car or anything. I mean, so.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. If I went in, I've never been in one of these shops, but I'm trying to just imagine the person that's helping you, and I'm.
It honestly was. I mean, pretty
at like dreads.
No,
just clean
kind of like
cut,
your normal looking. I mean, I probably had a big beard
like
or
a
something.
Starbucks barista.
Yeah, kind of like a hipster Starbucks barista. Yeah.
And what do they actually say? Like take 2 and then just go watch cartoons or what?
Well, so it was the night of the Conor McGregor fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the McGregor-Mayweather fight.
Ah.
And we had gotten tickets to go to the movie theater in town was actually showing it on the big screen, and there weren't any bars or anything like that showing it, so we got tickets to the movie theater. And so, man, honestly, after I bought them, I went so back and forth on if I was actually going to eat one. Like, I was in there.
At that point, you've
well,
got them.
I know, but I was in there, and so I felt like I had to buy them. But then I was like, well, I
just
kind
out
of
like courtesy to the store owner.
And I was kind of like, well, I kind of like the fact that I've never had weed in my entire life. But I can still say I've never smoked it, at least. But
so you tried it. It's a gummy.
I ate 2 gummies, and I'll be honest, they tasted delicious. They were watermelon.
So then what happened?
Yeah, so I didn't really feel anything. I didn't feel much different at all. No, not at all. But I will say the only thing I did feel was a little paranoid. Because after the McGregor fight was over, we had been going to Walmart every night and getting snacks and stuff like that to take to the blind with us the next day. And so we walk in Walmart, and I pick up a package of cookies, 2 Lunchables, and a Gatorade. Wow. And I just remember feeling really paranoid that this was exactly the type of food that some high person would buy.
So, oh my gosh, I'm trying to visualize this. So you didn't have any
happy feelings? It was just kind of
No,
like.
it was just like, everybody knows I'm high right now. I was just paranoid.
But you weren't. You didn't feel like it. Right?
I didn't feel like it, but maybe I was. Maybe that was just the feeling I got, was the paranoid feeling.
Huh.
I don't know.
How long did it last?
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't feel a whole lot. So
Wow.
all I know is my first pot experience. I can say that it's not something I would seek out.
It wasn't like
a fun whiskey drunk. You know how every once in a while you hadn't drank whiskey in a while, you have a couple whiskey and cokes, and you're just feeling a good mood.
Because
you used to drink whiskey.
After that one night at A&M, I don't drink whiskey anymore. But I see what you're saying. I see your point.
It's not. It's just not.
You tried it, and it was like, okay, don't see the big deal, but hey, good on you if you do it.
Yeah, if they made it legal in Texas, I'm probably not going to go out and buy any.
Right.
So, but I have no problem against it. It was. I mean, you got to try. As long as it's legal, hey, try it.
When you're in Rome, hey, I live by the same principles. You know, I just came from a really wild place in South America. People do some weird stuff down there.
Dude, you should have did some ayahuasca down there.
Isn't that a Mexico thing?
I don't know. I think it's South America.
Yes, you're right. I heard people talking about that while I was down there. I'd never heard of it. But I didn't do that. But I believe when you're in somewhere, if there's something that's kind of a staple, you should at least inquire about it and see and go along with the flow. But it doesn't mean you have to take it back home with you and be like, you know, a different person.
Yeah, I'm not a pothead after eating 2 pot gummies. I can promise you that.
Well, I know that. But you're more cultured now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It makes for a great story.
Yeah. But so the next day we got up, and the plan was that we were going to sit water until about noon or so. And then Brett was actually going to go get his horses, and me and him were going to go out on the horses and hunt antelope horseback.
Try to do like spot and stock kind of thing?
Like spot
them on the horses, and then what?
Well, so what's cool about hunting antelope with horses is you can ride on the horse to, fairly close to the antelope, a couple 100 yards, 150 yards, something like that. And then what you do is you get behind a group of trees or something, and you get off your horse. And you use your horse like a mobile blind. And so you just keep the horse between you and the antelope and just kind of walk towards them. You just lead your horse to the antelope, and you just kind of angle to them. And,
they're used to seeing horses.
They're used to seeing horses, used to seeing cows. And it's just almost one of those things where at first they kind of are a little jumpy with it. Like they might let you get to 100 yards, and then they'll look over at the horse and just kind of maybe make their way off. Well, then the next time they might let you get to 60 yards or 70 yards. And then the next time they might let you get, to 40 or 50 yards, and so on. And we immediately got on a couple of bucks that afternoon, about 2 o'clock. And we got in on them pretty close to about 100 yards the first little push, and couldn't get any closer. Ended up following them for a little bit, and we ended up getting to 76 yards. And I had the biggest buck standing perfectly broadside, and he was either 76 or 78, I can't remember. But he was standing perfectly broadside, and that's a shot I can make all day long. And one thing...
A shot I can't make any day, but go ahead.
One thing I forgot to take into consideration was the fact that whenever I'd sighted my bow in, once I got to about 80 yards, was about a yard or a yard and a half off. And so if I was making an actual 82-yard shot, I needed to put my sight on like 83 and a half yards, because my arrow was dropping out past 80. And so I had this pronghorn, I think he was at 76 yards, And he was standing perfectly broadside. There was not a lot of wind, just a shot I can make all day long. And I put my sight on 76 yards. And I dropped it out like literally half an inch under his chest. I mean, perfect left and right windage. I mean, everything was perfect. It just went right under him. And thinking back on that, I should have, shot him for 77 or 77 and a half. And I would have killed him because he didn't move. He didn't drop. He didn't duck, nothing. It just shot, just directly under him. And I made a good shot on that shot and everything. And, that kind of bummed me out.
Again.
Missed two animals. So then we just kind of keep on this group of goats because they didn't really know what had happened because we were, behind the horses and stuff. And we ended up getting back on him again, and I had him at 73 yards, and he was standing quartering away. Put my sight on 74 this time. I had remembered, what had happened. I put it on 74, 74 and a half, I can't remember. And Brett was watching through his binos, and I just was like super focused on this shot. And I held my pin right behind his last rib because he was quartering away a little bit. And my arrow was just going right where I was holding. I mean, it was about to just absolutely smoke him. And right before it got there, he whirled out of the way. And I just missed by half an inch to the right of him because he whirled left and just out of the way of my arrow. I mean, there was nothing I could do. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, well, that's what you get for shooting 75 yards at stuff that's fast. But probably true. But I made a very good shot on that one. But
speed goats, right?
Yeah,
some speed goats are quick.
So we're 3 days into this hunt, and I've missed 3 antelope. And up until this point, I haven't missed an animal in 10 years.
Humbled,
dude.
At this point,
I was just beaten down. So an interesting part of this story is after we get done hunting with the horses, we met up with Jim as he was actually coming out a little early before dark. And so we stopped and talked to Jim, and he points to the back seat of his car and says, look at this. And his bow was laying in the back completely derailed. The string had come off the cams, and his bow had exploded. And so we kind of asked him what had happened, and he starts showing us his picture of this big antelope buck. And he says, well, I had that buck right there at 30 yards. I went to draw back on him, and my bow exploded.
Oh, my gosh.
And so he had this, very, very good buck sitting at 30 yards drinking, went to draw on him. His bow blew up, and it was just crazy. And, he was obviously done hunting for the week. He had only had one more day left really anyway. And so he was done. And we all went to dinner that night, and I asked him, I said, Jim, do you care if one of us sits in that blind, since you're not going to be hunting anymore? He said, no, one of y'all need to sit in it. And he said, that's a really good buck. And so I gave my cousin Michael the option first since I had missed a couple. I said, Michael, if you want to sit in that blind, you can sit in it. I said, I'm going to give you the first choice. I said, because I've missed a couple. You hadn't had a whole lot of action. I said, you just let me know. And so we didn't actually know where this blind was. We knew kind of the road that it was down. And Brett kind of showed me on my phone on a map where it was. And Michael said, man, I really don't just want to be going in there in the dark trying to find it. He said, why don't I hunt the blind you've been hunting because you've been seeing some pronghorn. He said, you go over and hunt it. And so the next morning I took Michael and dropped him off at the blind I had been hunting all week. And then I headed on the other side of the highway to where Jim had his bow blow up on him on that goat. And I start walking in there just after daylight so that I could see where the blind was since I didn't know where it was. And so as soon as I start in there, I see a big buck like 100 yards behind the water. And, of course, he spots me before I can do anything and kind of takes off. And so I just knew that was that buck that, I'd screwed up the whole day by coming in there in the daylight. Then I get right near the blind, and there's 2 more bucks. And I ended up getting within 100 yards of those before they boogied out of there. And so I've already seen 3 bucks now, like, before I'm even in the blind. And so I think you need to change your battery on your video. We're going to take a 2-second break here, folks.
2-second break.
2 seconds break. There we go. We got a fresh battery now.
Fresh battery.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wonder if this battery's good. Yeah, we're good on the recorder battery.
Oh, right at the apex there of the story. Apologize.
Yeah. All right. So I get before I even get to the blind, I've run off, three bucks from this blind. And so I get in the blind and it just wasn't looking good. It was like 9 a.m., hadn't seen anything else. And I think we've told the story on here about my mom passing away a couple months back. And, dude, I started talking to my mom. I said, Mom, I haven't had, any closure from this whole thing. I said, I was really hoping to come up here, kill an antelope, at least take my mind off everything a little bit, have a good time. I said, I wish, if you were okay, I wish you'd just send me an antelope. And so I'm talking to my mom. I tell her this. And I'm not even kidding you. 5 or 10 minutes after I have this conversation with my mom, I look at the far ridge and I see an antelope doe. And she was probably like 600-700 yards away. And I just kind of keep an eye on her. I couldn't really see that area very good the way I had the blind set up, so I would have to stand up and, look out one of the windows, kind of hold the window open to look. And every probably 10 or 15 minutes, I'd check over there. And the next time I check, I see that big buck that Jim had tried to shoot the day before when his bow blew up. And he was chasing that doe. And then I just kind of keep looking over there, and all of a sudden I see about 15 more doe. And next thing I know, they're heading my way. The whole herd is coming. The buck and his ladies, they're headed my way. And so they drop down in this ditch that is between that ridge and where I am. And about 30 minutes go by, and I haven't seen them. So I don't know if they, turned down the ditch and went away. I really don't know where they went. And a couple more minutes later, I look and I see the first doe pop up over the ridge, and they're only a couple hundred yards away. Well, the whole herd ends up coming in and bedding about 120 yards behind my blind. And this is at about 9:30 in the morning. We were supposed to check out of the hotel at noon. And the absolute latest we could leave, headed to the airport and not miss our flights, was 2 o'clock. And so about 11 o'clock rolls around, and this whole herd of antelope is still bedded 120 yards behind my blind.
What are you going to do?
And so I text my buddy Brett. I said, Brett, I've got that big buck and all of his does bedded just right here behind me. I said, if you go pick up Michael at his blind, take him to the hotel, let him shower and check out. I said, I can realistically sit here until 2 o'clock.
Absolute latest.
Where
you guys can just grab me and we'll
take
off.
Exactly. And so I said, I can sit here till 2 o'clock. And so he says, all right, cool deal, I'm going to town anyway. And so he picks up Michael from his blind, which is the other side of the highway, takes him to the hotel. About 1 o'clock rolls around, they're still bedded there. Just sitting behind me at 120 yards. And, I can see the buck sitting there. He's with all his does.
How much are you texting in this whole? You had to have sent quite a few texts.
Yeah, I'm just texting they're just still here. They're not moving. And finally, the buck and his doe gets up at about 1 o'clock, right at about 1 o'clock. And they start heading to the water hole. And, it looks like they're just coming straight in. And that buck knew something was up with my blind. With that guy's bow blowing up the day before, he knew it just wasn't right.
Uh-huh.
And so eventually that whole herd gets up. There was about 14 or 15, 16 doe and that one buck. And they get up at about 1:15, about half of the doe come in to drink. But the buck doesn't. And the whole herd eventually moves off behind the tank dam. This is where it gets crazy. The whole herd eventually moves off behind the tank dam, and I can't see any of them anymore. I think they're all gone. So I get out of the blind, go around the back of the water hole, and pop up over the tank dam.
And boom.
Dude, he's standing there at like 100 yards, coming back to the water. So I duck back down, run back around, and get back in my blind. And he looks like he's coming right into the water. I mean, he's headed straight to me. And he gets out.
Did you watch him turn around and start coming? Like, what
yes.
made him turn around?
I have no idea. I have no clue. He really wanted to drink, is what it was. But he knew something was up with that blind. And he was trying to talk himself into drinking. Mm-hmm. And he started coming in again. He got to about 120 yards from my blind. And he just couldn't talk himself into it. And it's like 1:30 at this point.
I'm trying to think, like, can we narrate right here? Like,
this is Justin being the animal.
Something just ain't right over there in that blind. Something went loud, pop in there yesterday. I come here every day. Something just ain't right about this thing. I don't know, man. Oh, shoot, dude. Shoot, look at that girl over there. Dang, she's shaking that thing. Oh, shoot, I'm thirsty. Let me get in there for a second. Oh, daggum. Something ain't right about that blind. I just don't know about it.
All right, go ahead.
Dude,
That's
what he was saying. Yeah,
he was
between the girls and the water, like he was thirsty, but he knew something was wrong, and he just wouldn't come in, and so he eventually he eventually goes back the direction that they came from, back behind my blind. And I knew at this point it was 1:30. I knew that he wasn't coming in. And if I was going to kill him, I was going to have to actually go kill him.
Go to him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he dropped down into that ditch that they had to cross coming to me. And as soon as he was out of sight, I took my bow and just started hauling ass. And I literally was running to where he had dropped down into that ditch. And I was just trying to get over there before he was out of bow range. I mean, that's all I was thinking is, let's get over here. Maybe I can pop up over the ditch. He'll be within, 70 yards or so, and I can get a shot at him. And so I start hauling ass. As soon as I can start seeing the backs of the does, they were like 300 yards away. And so I was already thinking, well, crap, they're all off too far now. There's no way. And so I ended up crawling hands and knees for another probably 60 yards or so. And I get to the edge of that little ditch where I can kind of see down in there. And I sit up on my knees. And I have an arrow knocked. I'm ready to go. And I start peeking over, and I can't find him anywhere. I mean, I am looking. And so I kind of sit on my knees, on my butt, like my butt on my heels. And I just kind of start scanning, and I look a little bit to my right, and he's standing there staring at me. And so I pull up my rangefinder. He was 127 yards. But he didn't know what I was, and so he started walking to me. And that's something that antelope do. A lot of times, an antelope's a very curious creature. And so this buck starts walking to me. And I was just kind of sitting there being as small as I could, out in the wide open middle of this pasture. And he just keeps coming, and I'm sitting there with my rangefinder, and I'm just clicking him as he comes.
Probably thinking there's something he can mate with over there.
Maybe. I don't know.
Worked out in your favor, hopefully.
Yeah, and so I was ranging him. He gets to 110, 100. He keeps coming a little bit closer. And he stops at a distance that I think I can kill him. We're just going to say really far. We all know he's under 100 yards, though. But he stops at a distance I think I can kill him really, really far. I move my sight. I add 2 yards to it. And I draw back, and I hold my pin right on the center of his chest. And I made an absolute perfect shot. But by the time my arrow got to him, he had completely turned a 180. and my arrow hit him in the center of the right back hindquarter, cut his spine completely in half, and exited in front of his left hindquarter, and he went straight down.
Cut his spine.
I cut his spine completely in half, and so I ran up there, put another arrow in him, finished him off, and it was 1:45. I called my buddy Brett. I said, hey, I just killed him. He came, we loaded the whole goat into a cooler, and he took him to his house and cleaned him for me as I went to the airport.
Oh, my gosh. So you literally just had blood still on you going to the airport.
Yeah,
how does that work?
If you go look at my my Instagram picture that I posted that day, I had packed him out, and I wasn't sure if Brett could get his truck to where he died. So I literally strapped the whole antelope to my backpack.
Oh, blood everywhere.
And there was just blood all over my backpack. And I posted this picture here. I'll show it to you. It was me standing in the TSA check line with a completely blood-soaked backpack. Check this out.
Oh my gosh, dude. For all the video viewers out there, this is at Hook and Arrow on Instagram. And basically, you guys can't see it, but I'm just gonna describe it. What kind of pack is this?
It's a Kafaru.
Kafaru. So you got your tripod strapped on the back and everything. It's OD green on about half of the backpack. The rest is just, it looks like a gallon of wine was spilt all over the back of it. That is, did anybody ask you?
Yeah, I had a couple of people looking at me really weird, and so I just kind of explained to them. I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do or not, because there was also like hair like on it, so you could definitely tell it was blood. Like there was no question about it.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy, man. It just goes to show you though, never give up. I mean, because
100%.
just like a bass fishing tournament, there's been guys that have won bass tournaments in like the last, minutes.
Right at the end.
Right at the end. And I mean, you can't give up. I mean, if I would have gave up and not went after that goat, I wouldn't have killed him. And he was a really big pronghorn. I mean, he was like a 76-inch goat, which for the area I was hunting is a really big goat. So
what a good hunt too, because you had it was like a roller coaster, trials and tribulations. It was like, but at the end you got your groove back. And it's been on since then. So that was, you needed that.
I needed it for sure.
Bad.
Yeah, I needed it for sure. But yeah, it was a great trip. I got to hang out with my cousin Michael the whole weekend, and he's a couple years older than me, but we've hung out forever when we were younger. Hung out a ton and haven't gotten to in the last few years. So that was always a good time.
Tried some gummies.
Yeah, tried some gummies. Got to just go on a quick hunt. 3 days. That's kind of one of those real.
The working man's hunt.
Yeah, it's a cheap hunt. I think the whole hunt cost $1,400. I mean, you can't hunt whitetail for cheaper than that. So, I mean, it was a good hunt. Luckily, the wife let me go on it, and so
it's always important.
Yeah, dude, it started my year off good too. Like, just start off August killing something cool.
Dude, you're rocking and rolling this season. I know we got more stories to tell, but you're rocking and rolling. So I'm proud of you.
Well, let's end this podcast here.
Okay.
We'll have to do another one on our other adventures, because.
Yes, we will. And for all the video viewers out there, you can subscribe to the channel and actually go check out all the other socials and the podcast down in the description here of this video. You can go check out my boy here, JT, on all of his. You can go check out his blood-soaked backpack at Hook and Arrow.
And
it's all there for you.
If y'all like us sitting here talking, the podcast is up on iTunes. It's Hook and Arrow, And we have a bunch of episodes. I don't know exactly what episode number this is.
If you're new to the podcast experience, this is something me and JT have done since it's over a year now.
Yeah, it's over a year for sure.
It's over a year. We haven't been as consistent as we want to, but we're both we got a lot of things going on. But this is the ticket right here, is getting together.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to record another one actually again tonight. Maybe we'll wait. Maybe we'll give a little space. But make sure you tune into the next one.
The next one's even more epic than this one.
Yes.
The next one's international travel with Justin. Well, I guess Mexico's international too, but
It gets more international.
Yeah.
More epic.
yeah.
I say we get some more fuel, go get some food, and load up, and let's get another podcast going. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
See ya.